All right, let's cover the basics. It is hot. I have had a haircut. I have had a shave, so I mean, don't get too shocked. I mean, this does happen. Sometimes I like to reset the beard. In the summertime, I like to. I wasn't wearing a tank top. It's hot. You can see, I lift a bit. I'm not, completely thing. All those fans out there who are like, I've never seen him in anything except a t-shirt. This is what we're doing. It's hot. I'm in my own house. I do not want to wear sleeves. You can see those shoulders. I'm going to be back in the gym. I'm having small surgery in a week and a half's time on my eardrum to get it fixed. And after that, I will be back in the gym. So we will be doing some lifting, but I won't be doing videos of that because that's not how we roll. But let's dive into this fucking video before I ramble even more. We're here to make a tier list of all the sets in Flesh and Blood. This is not box art. This is tier lists. We're kind of going to go in release order. We're going to give some logic, but if you disagree, the comment section is where to give me grief, right? Welcome to Wraith is a good set because it's the first one, but how much of that is nostalgia? Plenty of that is nostalgia. The set is, by current standards, reasonably boring. It covers the base mechanics very well. It introduces the game. It did everything it needed to do back in 2019, but, while it might have been S tier then, it's not there anymore, unfortunately. So, nice bit of a B tier start for Welcome to Wraith. Serviceable, good, a bit boring. Moving on then, Arcane Rising. I'm just going to put this down here. We're going to judge these sets based on, limited as well. WTR limited means it stays a B, maybe even an A. Arcane Rising limited puts it down to a B. Based on, constructed content, I'm happy putting it as a C. Limited kind of drops it down. Crucible of War. Crucible of War is this was a great set. This was a fantastic set. Brought so many great toys for all of the new classes, really expanded on things, brought some really powerful cards into the game. Really fun to open. But maybe it doesn't go in A. Again, we're looking at these three sets through the lens of time, and we have seen better. So I think maybe Crucible of War goes in at a B. B is kind of like my baseline. I like B. I can even do B is baseline. It's a good set. I don't want to... B is not an insult. C is you have problems. And D is why are we here? Monarch. Monarch is a C tier, right? Maybe not, right? Maybe not. Maybe Monarch is a baseline good set. Monarch, first introduction of talents. We liked those. Those were good. The draft had some problems, but was overall fun. Obviously, power was a bit weird. Some of those heroes are living legend now. Well, one of those heroes is living legend now. But I think we can safely put, Monarch in B, baseline tier. It's a good set, does what it does, has a few issues. It doesn't have any glaring flaws like Arcane Rising does, in terms of, heroes like Azalea just not being very good out of the box and requiring a lot of work to fix. Kano being just toxic and shouldn't really be in the game anymore. All of these things are true. So, let's just put Monarch there. Then we have... Then we have this one. So good it's on this list twice. No, that's an accident. Where do you put Tales of Aria? This is a troubling one because on the one hand, we've got a set that is a fan favorite. People loved the elemental heroes. They loved Frost. They loved Lightning. And also, they were played immensely. And they were played to such an extent that all the heroes in the set are now living legends. So clearly it's A tier in terms of how much people liked it and how, it was received. But the design problems, right? Fuse is terrible. And... some of the cards are really bad. And arguably, the decks that were really good were using more cards from these three sets than from that set, right? It's not to say that Ice didn't play a role, that Elements didn't play a role, that, we didn't have powerful cards like Channel 8 Frigid and Channel Mount Heroic and stuff like that. But we got a load of bans. We got a ban before the set was released. The limited was terrible, except outside of certain very good pods. People got really confused by it, and we had our first errated hero. So I as much as I love Tales of Aria, and you'll see I've put Rosetta on here as kind of like a speculative tier list. As much as I love Tales of Aria, I just cannot see a world where I can put that in A. I think it has to go in D. We could even call this, we could give it its own special tier, which is the COVID tier. And by that I mean it was a fun set, but it had so many problems. Yeah, it's a bit tricky. And I think a lot of the kudos for Tales of Aria, the things I liked, I actually think belong to Everfest, right? I think Everfest brought a little sprinkling more power, a little more fun. And, like, obviously Stavro has a lot of crimes to answer for, but people really like him, right? They really like him. But then you've got all the potions, and you've got the weird carnival stuff that makes copper tokens, and all the cards that kind of, like, looked good but went nowhere. And then you've got the teaser of Icelander, which was good, but she didn't really get developed. I feel like we put it slightly above Arcane Rising just because, you know, it had a lot of fun stuff. It brought paper packs. I think that gets a good bit of, you know, that should get it a bit of a plus, right? Experimental. And it was fun. So I think that's going in high C. I think it has problems. They're not as flawed as the Tales of Aria ones, but it has problems. You know, but I liked it. I thought it was good. Then we move on to Uprising. Oh, I suppose we should do History Pack 1. I mean, History Packs are just going to go in here. They're baseline good. They have all the cards in that these other sets did. They brought reprints to places that needed them. You know, they did the job that they were made for. Uprising is a solid B tier set. Is it? Low B tier. The draft was more swingy than Monarch. Inherently flawed in the same way that Tales of Aria was flawed in that everyone wanted to draft one of the heroes and only drafted the other two when they didn't have a choice. But the set was so good in terms of dragons, marvels, power. Oh, it's a really hard one. I think I put Uprising at low A. Just for, like, bringing Dromai into the game and bringing us dragons in that really interesting way. For the advent of full art marvels, I think it gets an A. And I also feel like when you got into the draft, it paid itself off in a way that, like, Tales of Aria didn't. Where Icelander's 3-0 a pod, Dromai could 3-0 a pod, and all this fighting over Fi just caused things to be very confusing and didn't really, you know, do a lot. Then we have Dynasty. Dynasty is like a lot of powerful cards. The alt arts are a bit of a miss for me. They're black, but they're still full bordered and they don't have any different art. It's kind of a miss for me. But it had a lot of powerful and interesting cards. It brought the whole tiger theme in. I could easily see it just sitting just below Crucible of War, like in terms of being a good supplemental set. And I am acknowledged biased against supplemental sets. So, you know, take that for what you will. Then we have History Pack 2. We're just going to put that next to History Pack 1. I don't really want to spend a lot of time discussing the History Packs, though I will say maybe we put it lower because History Pack 2 was the only one that wasn't printed in English because we have tons of Everfest and Tales of Aria kicking around. So, I mean, it's hard to rate a set that didn't come out in every language. So maybe we'll just put that down here. I mean, it doesn't really deserve to be punished too much, but it doesn't really deserve too much praise either. Then we have Outsiders, which I think solidly comes up here. I think it's absolutely an A-tier set, definitely coming above Uprising. Draft was good. The heroes it brought in, like the assassin support, really good. Azuri's really interesting. Katsu getting his Bonds line is really cool. It brought the hero back into a new light. And then, of course, we have Riptide, who's now starting to show off a bit. People really liked it. And also, I like it because it showed us that non-talents were going to be good as well, and it wasn't just all talents, right? And I think that's really good to see as well. Then we have Bright Lights. Just going to put that down there. And then I'm going to move it a little bit because I really don't think it belongs down with Tales of Aria, because Tales of Aria was all over the shop in terms of balance. And obviously the bans and things like that. I feel like Bright Lights shouldn't get that kind of punishment. I think it probably is the top of the C-tier boxes, right? It's not Everfest. It hasn't got all that weird potion stuff in, but it does have all those weird mech stuff in. The heroes really didn't hit the way they should. The draft and the limited was... Again, the draft has grown on me, and a lot of people have come to me and said, look, I think you're being unfair about Bright Light's draft. It's actually very good once you get into it. But I feel like much as I punish Tales of Aria and I punish Uprising a bit for their draft being inaccessible and good and bad players not being able to understand where it's going and really just struggling with it, I feel like you have to punish a set for not being accessible. You have to punish a set that doesn't give clear clues and windows to where people need to be, right? I think that's just fair. Dust Till Dawn is in the C tier as well. I think any supplemental set that doesn't hit well for me is just a C tier. Like, if you come with a load of draft chaff, but you're not a draft set, because, you know, this is one of the reasons the supplemental sets were killed, right? They had loads of commons in that weren't good. And outside of, like, Tigers and stuff like that, they haven't really been reused. Obviously, it brought new Prism, so it doesn't deserve to get completely tanked, and it did bring some interesting cards for some heroes. But Dust Till Dawn is kind of, like, at the bottom of my list of things that I like in a supplemental set. And I feel it was just weak. I feel it missed a lot of things. And I'm not really happy with it. But then we, of course, as I pointed out in my Fab 3.0 video, which I would watch if you're listening to this and you're thinking this is interesting, this is kind of a promo for that video because that talks about how the game turns a corner and gets better. So obviously we're just going to slap heavy hitters at the top of A tier. I'm not putting it at S tier for a very simple reason, which is that I feel like it was just a little boring to established players. It reinforced like the key core game mechanics of the game. It was very fun. The draft and the limited got tired after a while because it's a very numbers focused set, but like it has nothing wrong with it. It could be an S tier if it was a little bit spicier, but I also don't think it needed to, I don't think spicy was its role. I think its role was, here's a baseline new set to get people in the game. It's the WTR of 2024. It's 5 years in. It's the new starter set for the game, and it is great. The art is great. The theme is great. The set works really well. So it's the top of the A tier sets. And then we have part of the Mistveil. This is not recency bias. Let's just get that criticism. People be straw manning me, being like, oh, it just came out, and he has a full art set of all of the full arts, and he has cold foil marvels that he's trying to build a crazy new deck for that will steal all your blues and all this kind of stuff. It's like, it's not recency bias, it's not ninja bias, it's not personal bias. Part of the Mistveil sits at the nexus of easy entry, complex to understand. Part of the Mistveil is the best set we have had in the game so far in terms of design levels, in terms of this is accessible, but it rewards you for getting deeper into the game. It is also a massive hit on theme. It's our first talented set in a while, and it knocks it out of the park in terms of taking us to a new place and showing us things. The draft is great. I've done 40 now, including my national championships. The CC impact, all of the heroes have been good. This is the best set to date. And then we have Rosetta, which we know nothing about, but it's Earth. It's all arcane. It has Runeblades and Wizards. It looks really interesting. I'm going to provisionally put it up here because I do believe that we have turned a corner in terms of design team. Probably getting bigger, therefore able to do more time, more work, more iterations, but also learning more about the game. So I think I'm predicting an S tier for Rosetta. However, being an all arcane set, it could very easily find itself down next to its Arcane Rising friend. It could, if there's a draft strategy in Rosetta that involves taking all the null runes so no one else can have any, then we may quickly end up with a draft experience akin to Arcane Rising rather than one equivalent to part of the Mistveil. This has been my tier list. Disagree if you want to, or don't. I feel like it's a really good tier list. I'm obviously happy with it. I will include the link to the tier list maker in the video description. I'm going to fix it so it has this correct. If you want to make your own, do. As always, if you want to support me, follow me on Twitter, follow me on YouTube, tell all your friends about me. I've been making Fab content for 5 years now. I'm on to episode 22 of season 2 of my podcast, which means I'm actually on episode 80. So there is hours and hours of Fab content. I have done historical content, looking at competitive histories of Fab. I have done revelatory content. And if you're wondering what the channel's about and you're still listening, my channel has always had one very, very simple goal, which became apparent to me as I kept playing the game, which is to be the voice of the player, to be the voice of the consumer, to discuss the game and as it works, and to review LSS's decisions about design, products, events, with a voice and an idea that the consumer and the gamer is the one who needs protecting, and that, you know, we need to talk about things that happened in a balanced and a nuanced way that gives us a view as to what was good and what was bad. Right? That's the goal and the ethos of the channel. It always has been, but it took a while for me to be able to articulate it that way. And you will see that I do not shy away from tackling controversial issues like streamer dialogue at the recent Tokyo part of the Mistveil, like people getting DQ'd, like the lack of UK judge representation, despite the fact that loads of them applied at Last Worlds, and the fact that 2 UK players were harshly judged at that event with no UK judges on the actual ticket as well. You know, there is no issue in Fab I will not discuss. If I think it's controversial, I will just be more careful while I'm talking about it. And that is something that I think you can trust when you come to watch this channel. So that's a little bit of channel advertising just to wrap us off. This has been a tier list. If you disagree, tweet me, post in the comment section below. Make your own. Make your own and tell me why I'm wrong. React to this. Make your own and tell me why I'm wrong. It's 2024. We can do React content in Flesh and Blood. That sounds like a good time.